It's a beautiful venue, isn't it?
Absolutely stunning. The chandeliers are magnificent.
The room was too quiet for a celebration. Crystal chandeliers shimmered above rows of wealthy investors, executives, and carefully curated smiles. Soft music played in the background, but no one was listening anymore, because she had just clapped, once, slow, sharp. Every head turned toward the entrance. Aria Bennett didn't rush. She didn't hesitate. She walked forward like she owned the room, even though her chest felt like it might collapse in on itself. At the center of the stage stood her fiancé, Daniel Hayes, and next to him another woman tall, elegant, confident, the kind of woman who didn't look surprised when she was caught. Aria stopped just a few feet away from them. "Stop the presentation," she said calmly, her voice carrying farther than she expected. "I'd hate to interrupt something important." Blinked, clearly thrown off. "What are you doing here?" That question, that stupid question, she almost laughed. "I could ask you the same thing," she replied. A murmur rippled through the crowd. The woman beside him, Vivienne Clark, tilted her head slightly, studying Aria like she was something mildly interesting, not threatening, not important. That was the first mistake. Aria's eyes dropped briefly to Daniel's hand. No ring, he had taken it off, of course he had. Her fingers tightened at her side, but her face didn't change. "I thought I'd surprise you," she said. "You've been so busy lately." Exhaled, recovering faster than she expected. That familiar composure slipped back into place. The one he used in investor meetings, the one that made people trust him, the one she used to admire. "This isn't the place for this," he said quietly, stepping closer to her. "We'll talk later." "No," Aria said just as quietly. "We won't." Silence, the kind that presses on your ears. Vivienne finally spoke, her voice smooth and controlled. "If this is a misunderstanding," she said, "we can clear it up privately." Aria looked at her, really looked at her, and smiled. "Oh, I understand perfectly." She reached up slowly and slipped the engagement ring off her finger, a small movement, but it felt louder than anything else in the room. Daniel's expression shifted, not guilt, not even shame, just annoyance. That hurt more than anything. Aria held the ring between her fingers for a second, then extended her hand, not to Daniel, to Vivienne. "You should have this," she said. A ripple of shock moved through the audience. Vivienne didn't take it immediately. "Excuse me," she said. "You're clearly more involved in his future than I am," Aria continued. "It only makes sense," stepped forward sharply. "Aria, stop." She didn't look at him, her eyes stayed on Vivienne. "I just didn't realize you preferred things that were already taken," she added softly. That landed. Vivienne's composure cracked, just slightly. "I don't take anything that isn't willingly given," she replied. Aria finally turned her head toward Daniel. And that was when the anger really settled in, not explosive, not loud, cold. "That true?" she asked. Daniel hesitated just for a second, but it was enough. Aria nodded slowly, like she had just confirmed something important. "Good," she said. "Then we're all clear." She placed the ring on the edge of the stage beside Vivienne instead of handing it to her. Then she stepped back. For a moment, it looked like she was about to leave. And honestly, part of her wanted to walk out, disappear, pretend none of this had ever happened. But then a voice cut through the silence behind her, low, controlled. "Interesting timing." Aria froze, that voice. She turned slowly. And there he was, the man from the airport, dark suit, impossibly calm expression. Eyes that didn't miss anything, Yi Min. She hadn't even known his name until 30 minutes ago. Now he was standing in the middle of a room full of powerful people, and somehow he looked like the most dangerous one there. Daniel frowned. "Who is this?" Yi Min didn't answer him. He was looking at Aria, only Aria. "You left before I could return your file," he said, holding up a slim black folder. Her breath caught. The file, everything, her original designs, her strategy models, the work she thought Daniel had been reviewing for months, the work that had somehow ended up in Vivienne's company. The room shifted again, confusion, curiosity, tension. Aria stepped toward him slowly. "You found it," she said. "I didn't lose it," he replied. "Someone else did." That wasn't just a statement, it was a message, and Daniel understood it. "You need to leave," Daniel said sharply. "This is a private event." Yi Min finally looked at him, just a glance, and somehow it was enough to make Daniel take a step back. Yi Min said calmly. It stopped being private the moment she walked in. Aria felt it then, the shift, the balance of power tilting. Vivienne crossed her arms. "If you're here to cause a scene, I suggest you reconsider." Yi Min's lips curved slightly. "I never cause scenes," he said, a pause. "I end them." Air changed. Even the investors could feel it now. Aria looked between them, Daniel, Vivienne, Yi Min. For the first time since she walked in, she didn't feel cornered. She felt in control, barely, but enough. "What's in the file?" she asked quietly. Yi Min stepped forward and handed it to her. "Open it," he said. Daniel moved. "Arya, don't." She opened it anyway. Her heart dropped, then hardened, because inside was proof, contracts, transfers, signatures, her work, her name removed, Vivienne's name stamped over everything. Arya let out a slow breath, then she looked up, not at Daniel, not at Vivienne, at the room, all those watching eyes, all that power, all those people who thought they were witnessing a celebration. She said softly, then louder, "No. I don't think I will leave." She closed the file, and for the first time that night she smiled for real. This presentation just got a lot more interesting. The silence didn't break all at once. It cracked, soft murmurs, shifting feet. The subtle sound of people realizing they were no longer watching a celebration, but a collapse. Arya didn't rush. She let them feel it, let the tension stretch just enough to become uncomfortable. Then she turned toward Daniel. "You said this wasn't the place for this," she said, her voice steady. "But you brought my work here, so I guess it is." Jaw tightened. "You're overreacting." That word, overreacting, it almost made her laugh again. Instead, she stepped closer to the stage, holding up the file. "Do you want me to read it out loud?" she asked. A few people in the crowd shifted forward, interest sharpening. Investors. They didn't care about relationships. They cared about ownership. Vivienne stepped in smoothly, trying to regain control. "This is clearly a personal dispute," she said, addressing the room. "We'll resolve it internally. There's no need to—" "It's not personal," Arya cut in. That stopped her. "It's business," Arya continued. "And I'm pretty sure everyone here prefers transparency when millions are involved." That landed exactly how she wanted it to. Man in the front row leaned toward another, whispering. Daniel saw it too, and now he was nervous. "Arya," he said, lowering his voice, stepping closer again. "You're making a mistake." "No," she said. "I made a mistake when I trusted you." That one hit deeper than anything else. For a brief second, something flickered across his face, not regret, not fully, but something close enough to make her chest tighten. Then it disappeared, replaced by calculation. "Fine," Daniel said, louder now, turning slightly toward the audience. "If you want the truth, she wasn't involved in the final development. Her early contributions were minimal. We compensated her fairly." The word echoed. Arya tilted her head slowly. "Minimal," she repeated. Then she opened the file again, this time flipping directly to a page. "Page 14, she said. "Original architecture model, my signature, my timestamp. 6 months before your final version." She flipped another page. "Page 22. Revenue projections, my numbers, adjusted slightly but still mine." "Page 31. Strategic rollout plan, you didn't even change the formatting." A few quiet chuckles slipped through the room. Daniel's composure cracked. "Those are drafts," he snapped. Arya said. "Those are foundations." She closed the file again. "And everything you're presenting tonight is built on them." Vivienne stepped forward, her voice sharper now. "You're trying to claim ownership of collaborative work." "That's not how this works." Arya met her gaze. She said softly. "This is." She turned slightly. "Yi." Was the first time she said his name out loud. The shift in the room was immediate because everyone had noticed him, even if they didn't know who he was. Yi Min stepped forward without hesitation, no rush, no hesitation, just presence. "You might want to show them the rest," he said. Arya raised an eyebrow. "The rest?" He looked at her just briefly, then nodded toward the file. "Back section," he said. Her fingers moved before she could question it. She flipped to the back and froze, because those pages she hadn't seen before, her name was still there. But now there were additional documents, transaction logs, internal messages, recorded approvals, and one specific thread between Daniel and Vivienne. Arya's pulse slowed, not sped up, slowed, the kind of calm that comes right before something irreversible. She looked up. "Did you know," she said, her voice almost conversational now, "that they discussed removing my name before the product was even finished?" A ripple went through the room. Daniel's face went pale. Vivienne didn't move. "Arya," Daniel said, sharper now, "you don't understand what you're looking at." "No," she said. "I understand perfectly." She held up the page. "You called me temporary leverage." She read. That one line was enough. No need for shouting. No need for drama. It was clean, final. And it broke something, not loudly, but completely. For a second, no one spoke. Then, "Is this accurate?" Someone in the audience asked, not emotional, cold business. Vivienne stepped forward immediately. "These are taken out of context." "Answer the question," the man said. Now the room had turned, not fully, but enough. Arya stepped back slightly. She didn't need to push anymore. They would do it for her. Daniel ran a hand through his hair, frustration breaking through. "This is ridiculous," he said. "We built something valuable. That's what matters." "To who?" Arya asked quietly. He looked at her, really looked at her this time. And for the first time all night, he didn't have an answer. The silence stretched again. But this time it felt different, heavier, final. Vivienne exhaled slowly, then straightened. Even if there were overlaps, she said carefully, this doesn't change the value of what we've created. Arya nodded. You're right, she said. Vivienne blinked, slightly thrown off. Then Arya continued. Doesn't change the value. A pause. It just changes who it belongs to. That was the moment everything shifted completely, because now this wasn't about exposure anymore, it was about ownership. And everyone in the room knew it. Yi Min stepped slightly to the side, watching, not interfering, not leading, just observing like he already knew how this would end. Arya turned back to the audience. I'm not here to shut this down, she said. That surprised them, even Daniel. I'm here to correct it. Curiosity spiked. Investors leaned forward again. Meaning? Someone asked. Arya smiled faintly. Meaning, she said, this isn't their product. She tapped the file. It's mine. Silence, then whispers, then calculation. Daniel shook his head. You can't just walk in and claim. I'm not claiming, she said. Proving. She looked at Yi again, and this time there was something different in her expression, not uncertainty, alignment. Tell them, she said. Yi Min stepped forward once more, and when he spoke, the room listened. Yi Min didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. Firm, he said calmly, was approached 3 months ago to invest in this project. A ripple moved through the room again. Arya's eyes flicked to him. 3 months, that meant before she even realized anything was wrong. Daniel stiffened. That's confidential. Yi Min ignored him. We declined, he continued. Not because the idea lacked value, but because something didn't add up. Turned slightly, addressing the room now. The foundation of the product was too polished for something that was supposedly developed in such a short time. Investors exchanged looks. That mattered a lot. Then we ran a deeper review, Yi Min added. Arya felt her pulse pick up, not from panic, but from realization. He had known at least part of it for a while. And what did you find? Someone asked from the crowd. Yi Min's gaze shifted briefly to Arya before returning to the audience. We found original frameworks. Authored by someone who was not listed anywhere in the company structure. A pause. Yet every major function traced back to that same source. Arya exhaled slowly. That source was her. Daniel let out a sharp laugh, trying to regain control. This is speculation, he said. You're building a narrative out of incomplete data. Yi Min finally looked directly at him. He said, I'm finishing when you started. That line landed harder than anything else so far. Vivienne stepped forward again, her patience clearly thinning. You're implying misconduct without legal basis, she said. Be careful. Yi Min tilted his head slightly. Careful, he repeated, then almost casually, we already forwarded the findings to legal review. That changed everything. The room shifted again, not curiosity this time, concern, real concern. Daniel's composure cracked completely now. You had no right. I had every right, Yi Min cut in. You asked for investment. Silence. Then a voice from the audience. Is there going to be an investigation? That was the question, the one no one wanted to ask out loud. Until now, Vivienne didn't answer immediately. And that hesitation was loud. Arya watched it all unfold, her mind racing, but her body still steady. For the first time since this started, she wasn't reacting. She was watching them fall apart, piece by piece. Daniel turned back to her suddenly. This is what you wanted, he said, his voice low but sharp. To destroy everything. Arya met his gaze, and something inside her finally settled. She said, I wanted honesty. A beat, you chose this. That hit deeper than anything else she'd said, because it was true. Daniel shook his head, frustration boiling over. You don't understand how this works, he said. This is how things are built. People contribute, people move on. No, Arya said. That's how people justify taking what isn't theirs. Again, but this time it didn't feel tense. It felt decided. Vivienne exhaled slowly, then straightened her shoulders. Fine, if she couldn't control the narrative, she would redirect it. Even if, she said carefully, there are disputes over early contributions, the product we're launching today is a result of significant expansion beyond those initial concepts. She turned to the audience. And that's what matters. Some heads nodded, not all, but some Arya noticed. Of course she did. Vivienne wasn't wrong. She was just incomplete. Arya took a small step forward again. Right, she said. Vivienne paused. Again, that agreement, it kept throwing her off. But let's not talk about early contributions, Arya continued. Let's talk about current ones. She flipped the file open again, different section this time. These updates, she said, tapping a page, were made 2 weeks ago. Froze, Vivienne's eyes narrowed. Aren't yours, Vivienne said immediately. Arya looked up slowly. She said, Then she turned the page around, timestamp, author tag, her name. The room reacted instantly this time. Because now it wasn't just the past, it was the present. Daniel stepped forward, anger cutting through everything now. "That's impossible," he said. "You didn't have access," Arya smiled, and this time there was no softness in it. She said, "I didn't." A pause, "until I realized you never revoked it." That landed like a punch, because it meant one thing: she had seen everything, everything they had done, everything they had changed, everything they had planned. Vivienne's composure cracked, more visibly this time. "You accessed restricted systems," she said. "That's a violation." Arya tilted her head slightly. "What?" she asked. "My own work." No answer, because there wasn't one. The room shifted again, now fully divided, some people stepping back, others leaning in, everyone calculating risk. Yi Min watched quietly from the side, still not stepping in again. He didn't need to, Arya had it, and she knew it. Daniel ran a hand through his hair again, packing slightly now. "This doesn't change anything," he said. "The launch is happening. The deal is already in motion." Desperation, finally. Arya saw it clearly. And for a second, she almost felt something, almost, then it disappeared, because this wasn't about him anymore. "Ahead," she said. The room stilled again. Daniel blinked. "What?" "Launch it," Arya repeated. Confusion spread. Vivienne frowned. "What are you doing?" she asked. Arya closed the file slowly. "I'm not stopping you," she said, a pause. "Just making sure everyone knows exactly what they're investing in." Silence, then whispers again, but this time they weren't small, they were spreading, fast. Yi Min stepped slightly closer, not interrupting, just enough to be heard by her. "You're shifting the leverage," he said quietly. Arya didn't look at him. "I already did," she replied. He smiled, just barely, because now he understood this wasn't about destroying the deal, it was about controlling it. Daniel looked around the room, seeing it happen in real time, the doubt, the hesitation, the risk. And for the first time, he looked afraid, not of Arya, of losing everything. Vivienne saw it too. And that scared her more, because fear made people unpredictable. And right now, Arya was the only one completely in control. Arya took one last step forward, right into the center of the room, and when she spoke again, her voice carried farther than ever. "Now," she said, "who still wants to invest?" No one answered her question immediately, not because they didn't hear it, but because they were thinking, calculating, reassessing everything they thought they knew just 10 minutes ago. Arya stood still in the center of it all, her expression calm. But inside, her heart was pounding so hard she could feel it in her throat. This was it. There was no stepping back after this. A man near the front cleared his throat. "I'd like clarification," he said. "If what you're presenting is accurate, then who currently holds legal ownership of the core framework?" There it was, the question that mattered most. All eyes shifted, not to Daniel, not to Vivienne, to Arya. Daniel stepped in quickly, voice tight. "The company does," he said. "Everything has been properly transferred and documented." Arya didn't respond right away. She let that statement sit, then she tilted her head slightly. "Properly," she repeated. Her gaze moved to Vivienne. "Would you like me to show them the transfer documents?" Vivienne's jaw tightened. Daniel said under his breath. Arya heard it. Of course she did. But she didn't stop. She flipped the file open again, pulling out a separate set of pages. "These are the transfer agreements," she said, holding them up. "Signed 3 weeks ago." A pause. She added softly, "They're missing one thing." The room leaned in again. Daniel's voice sharpened. "Arya, my signature," she finished. Silence, heavy, final. One of the investors stood up slightly. "Are you saying these documents are incomplete?" "Saying," Arya replied, "they were never legally completed." That did it. The shift this time wasn't subtle, it was immediate. People started pulling out phones, whispering, stepping away from their seats, because now this wasn't just messy, it was risky. Vivienne stepped forward again, but this time there was urgency beneath her control. "These claims are being made without full context," she said. "We can resolve this privately." "No," Arya said, the word cut clean through her. "More private conversations." A beat. "You've had enough of those." Daniel's composure finally shattered. "This is insane," he snapped. "You're sabotaging everything for what? Pride?" Arya looked at him. And for a second, the room disappeared, all the noise, all the people, all the tension gone. It was just him and her. 4 years, late nights, plans, promises, the way he used to look at her like she mattered, the way he doesn't now. Her chest tightened, but her voice stayed steady. She said quietly, for truth. That hit harder than his anger because it wasn't loud, it wasn't dramatic, it was final. Daniel let out a sharp breath, packing now, running out of control. "You think this makes you powerful," he said. "You think this changes anything?" Arya didn't move. "It already has," she replied. Behind him, one of the investors stepped closer to another, speaking quietly but not quietly enough. "We need to pause this." That word, pause, was the beginning of the end. Vivienne heard it, and she knew if this paused, it wouldn't restart, not like before. She turned sharply back to Arya. "What do you want?" she asked. There it was, finally, not denial, not deflection. A negotiation. Arya studied her. This woman who had taken everything so confidently, now asking for terms. It would have felt good, but it didn't. Not the way she expected, it just felt necessary. "I want what's mine," Arya said. Vivienne held her gaze. "And what exactly do you think that is?" Arya didn't hesitate. "Control," she said. Silence again. Daniel turned to her sharply. "You're not serious." "Never been more serious," she replied. Vivienne's eyes narrowed slightly. "You're asking to take over the entire project." "I'm correcting ownership of it," Arya said. A long pause, the kind where everyone knew this wasn't just talk anymore. This was a deal being shaped in real time. One of the investors spoke again. "If she holds original rights," he said slowly, "and the transfer wasn't completed." He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Everyone understood. Vivienne exhaled slowly. For the first time since this started, she looked uncertain, not weak, but calculating, because now she had to decide, fight and risk everything collapsing or adapt and survive. Daniel wasn't thinking that far. "This is ridiculous," he said. "We're not handing anything over." Vivienne didn't look at him. That alone told Arya everything. "Daniel," Vivienne said quietly, "stop." Froze, not because of her tone, but because of what it meant. She turned back to Arya. "If we entertain this," she said carefully, "what happens next?" Arya met her gaze, simple, clear. "Everything changes." A beat. "I take over the core direction. The product moves forward with transparency." She glanced at the room. With everyone here fully aware of where it came from. That mattered, because investors didn't mind conflict. They minded uncertainty, and Arya was removing that. Vivienne considered it. Daniel didn't. "This is insane," he said again, shaking his head. "You're actually considering this?" Vivienne finally looked at him, and in that moment he realized something. He wasn't in control anymore, not of the deal, not of her, not of anything. "Enough," she said quietly, one word. It shut him down completely. Arya watched it happen, and that was when she knew this was over, not emotionally, not dramatically, strategically. Done. The room settled again, not silent, but focused, waiting. Vivienne turned back to Arya. "You'll get your transparency," she said, a pause, "and your control over the foundation." Stared at her. "What are you doing?" he demanded. She didn't answer him, because she didn't need to. The deal had already shifted. Arya nodded once. "Good," she said. No celebration, no relief. Just acknowledgement, because this wasn't a victory, it was a correction. Yi Min stepped forward again, finally re-entering the moment. "I'll have my team oversee the restructuring," he said calmly. That sealed it. Official, real. Daniel let out a quiet, almost disbelieving laugh. "You planned this," he said, looking between them. Arya didn't respond, because the truth was she hadn't, not like this, but she finished it. And that was enough. The room began to move again, conversations breaking out, phones ringing, deals shifting. Everything's changing. Arya stood still for a moment longer. Then finally, she stepped back, away from the center, away from him, away from everything that used to define her. And for the first time that night she felt it. Not anger, not pain, something quieter, stronger, freedom. The room didn't feel the same anymore, not because people had left, but because everything that mattered had already happened. Arya walked out before anyone could stop her, before anyone could congratulate her, before anyone could ask what came next. The hallway outside was quiet, too quiet. She exhaled slowly, her shoulders finally dropping for the first time all night, and then walking away already. His voice was calm, steady. "Yi Min," she didn't turn immediately. "I stayed long enough," she said. Footsteps approached, measured, unhurried. "You didn't just stay," he replied. "You changed the entire outcome." Arya let out a soft breath, almost a laugh. "It doesn't feel like it," she said. Now she turned. He was standing a few feet away, hands in his pockets, watching her, not intensely, not intrusively, just present. "You expected it to feel different?" he asked. She thought about that, the confrontation, the betrayal, the moment everything shifted. "I thought I'd feel something bigger," she admitted. Yi Min nodded slightly. "It's not loud," he said. "Sometimes it's just clarity." That word stayed with her. Clarity. Arya leaned lightly against the wall, looking past him for a second. "Thank you," she said quietly. "For what?" he asked. "Not stepping in too early," she replied. "For letting me handle it." A small pause. "You didn't need help," he said. She met his eyes again. She said, "But I needed the option." That earned a slight smile from him, not big but real. Silence settled between them, but this time it wasn't uncomfortable, it was steady. "What happens now?" he asked after a moment. Arya thought about it. Everything was open now, nothing tying her down. Nothing holding her in place. "Now," she said. A faint smile touched her lips. I build something that's actually mine. Yi Min studied her for a second, then nodded. Good, he said, a pause. And if you ever decide you want a partner on your terms— He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Arya understood, but this time she didn't rush the answer. I'll think about it, she said, honest, unforced. That was new. He nodded once, like that was enough. Fair, he said. Another quiet moment passed. Then Arya pushed herself off the wall. I should go, she said. Yi Min stepped slightly aside, giving her space. But as she walked past him, he spoke again. Arya, she paused, not turning. Disappear, he said, not a command, not even a request, just a statement. Arya smiled slightly to herself. I won't, she said, and this time she meant it. She walked down the hallway without looking back, not because she was running, but because she didn't need to anymore, and for the first time in a long time. She wasn't walking toward someone else's future. She was walking into her own. If you made it this far, you already know this wasn't just a story about betrayal. It was about taking your power back. So tell me, what would you have done in her position? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications for more stories like this, because the next one might be even crazier.